Hello, this is Judy, and for the next hour, I will be reading from the June 1st, 2026 issue of the Toronto Star on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. I will do my best to pronounce all names and words correctly, yet please forgive me if I do not. And here is our first article, and it's under real estate, and the title is Toronto Tenants Go on Rent Strike as Landlord Says Social Housing Status Exempts Them from Rent Control. The tenants are facing an 8% hike in the mixed income building. And there's a caption that says tenants and supporters stand outside of 6A Green Law, an affordable living complex where residents have been issued an 8% rent increase. And this article is written by Armachi Amadike, and that's Amadike, who is a staff reporter. Tenants at a mixed income affordable housing building in Toronto are refusing to pay an 8% rent increase, nearly 4 times the provincial guideline, after their nonprofit landlord said the units are exempt from rent control rules because they fall under social housing regulations. Residents at the 44-unit building at 6A Greenlaw Avenue near Dufferin Street and Davenport Avenue say the increase is unaffordable. "We do not know that they could do this," said Mary Jane Domingo, a market-rate tenant who has lived in the building since 2009. Though she has experienced rent increases in the past that fall within provincial guidelines, Domingo said she was shocked to learn that, unlike most renters in Ontario, market-rate renters in mixed social housing projects are not fully protected under the Residential Tenancies Act, the province's primary law governing rent increases and evictions. The exemption allows landlords of certain housing projects to enforce rent hikes well above Ontario's guidelines without seeking special permission from the Landlord and Tenant Board, which is the LTB. This, Domingo says, undermines the original mission of the building, owned by Tahanan, and that's Tahanan, Nonprofit Homes Corporation, of providing stable, affordable housing. Tahanan means home in Filipino, Domingo explained, noting the building was established in 1993 to help address the affordable housing needs in the area. It was made for people and not for profit. In a letter shared among tenants, the building's property manager, on behalf of the board of directors, suggested that Tanahan's reserve fund is underfunded, leaving management unable to cover upcoming repairs. Rectifying this, the letter stated, requires annual contributions to the reserve fund to be increased by 15% in 2026, 25% in 2027, and 30% in 2028 before stabilizing to 3% in 2032, once major repairs to common elements are completed. While the board attempted to fund these costs from the reserve fund, there were insufficient funds to address this work and work required in the future, the letter stated. In a separate letter written by Tahanan's lawyer, the board informed tenants that the building status as a social housing project exempts it from sections of the Residential Tenancies Act that restrict rent increases above provincial guidelines. Tahanan did not respond to a request from the Star to comment. Rosalia Thompson, a lawyer with the Advocacy Centre for Tenants Ontario, ACTO, explained that social housing projects with Residential Tenancy Act exemptions are often governed by a patchwork of rules under the Housing Services Act, agreements with municipalities and service manager directives, and funding rules. She noted that the Housing Services Act does not include a set formula for calculating rent increases for market rent tenants in mixed tenancy housing projects. By contrast, tenants paying rent geared to income, RGI, are generally protected from paying more than 30% of their household income toward rent. As a result, rent increases at social housing projects can affect market rent and RGI tenants differently within the same building. there may very well be rules in place to restrict how much market rent tenants can have their rent raised in social housing projects, Thompson said, but there also may not be. It's very context dependent. You'd have to know the exact regime the housing provider is subject to. The Star reached out to Tahanan's board of directors, inquiring into the legislation and operating agreements that govern rent increases at their property, but did not receive a response. A request for information from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing was also unanswered by publication time. Having lost her job a year ago, Domingo says the unexpected increase has further strained her finances. What worries me is that if I don't find employment, I might end up on the street. Though she declined to disclose her monthly rent, Romnel Carrubias, Carrubias, another tenant who's also a market rate renter, revealed that he currently pays $1,053 a month. Under the increase, his rent will rise by roughly $125 monthly. Such financial setbacks have unified Tahanan's tenants. Last Friday, 6A Greenlaw Avenue residents gathered outside their building to launch a rent strike aimed at preserving the affordability of their homes. Among them was Edith Mendoza, who says the increase has placed additional pressure on her husband, the household's sole income earner, as she has been unable to work for the past 3 years due to health issues. For me, this has a huge impact, she told the Star. Everyone knows inflation is already a problem. With a teenage daughter to support, Mendoza says her family's finances will be severely affected if Tahanan's board of directors does not reverse its decision. Carmen Bensner-Kerr, a housing advocate with the recently formed Toronto Tenants Union, says the dispute at 6A Greenlaw Avenue is one of the most important fights unfolding in the city because she believes it's one of the last places that is truly deeply affordable in Toronto. Half of its rent geared to income and half is market rent, Kerr explained. But even the market units are still below market rates. It's one of the few buildings where people can actually live comfortably on a minimum or low-wage salary. Kerr argues that an 8% increase undermines the city's broader goal of preserving affordable housing. And when there's no limit and no transparency or communication from the board, there's no guarantee there won't be another increase next year, she said. Kerr says the exemption leaves tenants with fewer protections through the landlord and tenant board. Nobody's salary goes up by 8%. Though Tahanan residents don't have an active case with the LTB, Kerr confirmed they all have agreed to keep the exact withheld amount on hand, ready to pay their landlord upon reaching a resolution. And Armachi Amadike is a staff reporter with the Toronto Star. You can reach him at his email, which is @THESTAR.ca. The next article is titled, Postal Workers Overwhelmingly Ratified Tentative Agreement with Canada Post. Postal workers ratified a 5-year deal with Canada Post, ending a 2-year contract dispute and enabling a massive corporate restructuring. And this article is written by Josh Rubin, who is a business reporter. More than 53,000 postal workers have overwhelmingly ratified a tentative agreement with Canada Post, bringing an end to a 2-year contract dispute that led to 2 national strikes and clearing the way for the Crown Corporation to move ahead with a massive restructuring. Members of the Canadian Union of Postal Workers, which is CUPW, Urban Bargaining Unit, approved the deal 89% to 11%, while CUPW's Rural and Suburban Unit approved their deal 85.9% to 14.1% in voting, which began April 20th and closed Saturday. In a bulletin to members, CUPW National President Jan Simpson, who had come out publicly against the deal, said the union needs to remain united as it pushes back against the Crown Corporation's restructuring, which was given the green light by federal government in September. We still have our work cut out for us to win the fights ahead, prepare for the next round of bargaining, and mobilize against the government's attacks on our public postal service. We all have to regroup and unite in our struggle, Simpson said. In a written statement, Canada Post CEO Doug Ettinger said the Crown Corporation will try to rebuild trust with its customers and said the restructuring will help them do that. Thank you to Canadians and businesses large and small for their patience over the last 2 years. We will work hard to regain your trust, said Ettinger of the agreements, which will last until January 31st, 2029. The new agreements are critically important as the corporation moves ahead with its transformation to return to financial sustainability and better meet the modern needs of the country. The agreement is for a 5-year deal with wage increases of 6.5% and 3% in the first 2 years and increases to match inflation in the final 3 years. The agreement also maintains job security provisions for mail carriers. Brock University labor studies professor Larry Savage said the large majority is a sharp rebuke to Simpson and showed a significant disconnect between the national president and her membership. Postal workers, said Savage, likely voted to approve the deal because they'd been ground down by 2 years of hard bargaining, which included 2 national strikes, a forced vote last year, and the federal government giving the green light for postal restructuring. I think postal workers have been worn down by an exceedingly difficult round of bargaining, said Savage. The union was divided. Canada Post was struggling, and the federal government has mandated sweeping restructuring. Given the context, I think the workers simply came to the conclusion that a strike wouldn't get them any further ahead and might even leave them worse off in the long run. And Josh Rubin is a Toronto-based business reporter. Our next article is under personal finance, and the title is Big Changes Are Coming to Ontario Auto Insurance on July 1st. Will you be covered? Experts caution the opt-in model could expose some drivers to huge financial risk. And Ontario drivers will soon have to opt into some accident benefits that were previously included in every insurance policy. And this article is written by Laura Grady, who is a personal finance reporter. Buckle up, Ontario drivers. As of July 1st, 9 out of 12 standard auto accident insurance benefits are becoming optional. With these new a la carte options, while these new a la carte options are meant to give consumers more choice, some experts worry Ontarians will opt out of crucial coverage to save money, which could cost them greatly in the event of an accident. The government said it's making these changes to provide Ontario drivers with more flexibility, as some already pay for the benefits through an employer or private insurance plans. Our government is providing drivers with greater choice and convenience when purchasing auto insurance so they can choose the right policy that fits their needs. Sarah Chapin, Director of Strategic Communications and Issues Management for Ontario's Finance Minister Peter Bethlenfalvy, and that's Bethlenfalvy, said in an email to the Star. But these changes mean consumers have to make some difficult trade-offs between modestly lower premium costs and taking on additional risk. Many consumers have savings at the forefront of their mind, but it's important to consider what coverage they could lose in the process of saving, said Daniel Ivins, an insurance expert for Rates.ca. As soon as coverage is declined, that means that exposure has opened up. Here's what Ontario drivers need to consider about their auto insurance policies. What's optional and what's not? The following auto accident benefits will become optional: income replacement benefits, non-earner benefits, caregiver benefits, lost educational expenses, expenses of visitors, housekeeping and home maintenance, damage to personal items, death benefits, and funeral funds. Standard medical, rehabilitation, and attendant care benefits will continue to be included in all auto insurance policies, which cover medical expenses, therapy, personal care, assistance for injuries from an accident, including doctor visits, physiotherapy, and help with daily activities such as bathing. How will insurance premiums change? Choosing to forego these optional benefits may impact insurance premiums, which means Ontario drivers on a tight budget may choose not to opt in. Morgan Roberts, Vice President of RH Insurance, says removing all of the optional auto accident benefits will save Ontarians approximately $100 a year. That's around $8 a month. That's a very small price to pay in income loss, she says, adding that death and funeral costs can also be costly. Amanda Dean, Vice President of Ontario and Atlantic for the Insurance Bureau of Canada, which is the IBC, says the premium difference won't be significant, but points out that the cost will depend on the insurer. During the 12 months after July 1st, when policies renew, we'll see how the system works in terms of cost, she said. Who should opt in and who should opt out? Ontarians who are purchasing a policy on or after July 1st will have to opt in to the optional accident benefits they want to purchase. Make sure you ask your insurance agent or broker which benefits are included in your quote. If your policy comes up for renewal, you should hear from your broker via letter mail, email, or phone, and your broker will discuss whether you want to opt out of the optional benefits, Dean says. If your insurance agent or broker is unable to reach you, your current policy will renew automatically with your current coverage and limits. You will then need to agree in writing to decline the benefits or make changes to them. People who are most concerned about saving money usually need the most coverage, Ivan said. If saving $5 to $30 a month is meaningful and impactful at a household level, then a loss of thousands of dollars is going to be potentially devastating. If someone is unable to work as a result of a car accident, income replacement benefits, which Ivan says typically cost $10 to $20 a month, can provide up to $1,000 a week. For some Ontario drivers, it might make sense to opt out of some of the benefits. For example, Robert says someone who is retired likely won't need income replacement. It's critical you find out whether you already have certain coverage through your private health plan or workplace benefits to avoid coverage gaps. What new changes mean for pedestrians not covered by insurance? Another big change is that these newly optional accident benefits will only apply to the named insured, the spouse of the insured, dependents of the insured, and of the insured spouse, and people specified in the policy as drivers of the automobile. That means if a pedestrian or cyclist is hurt in an accident, the driver's standard no-fault coverage will apply, but the pedestrian will have to rely on their own auto insurance policy for optional accident benefits. Harvey Nagali, and that's Nagle, consumer advocate and former senior policy advisor with the Ontario Ministry of Finance, says he's concerned for gig workers like food delivery cyclists who could be hit without coverage. For someone who ends up in the hospital or homebound for 6 months without insurance, he says the only prospect they would have to get compensated would be to take the driver to court. Jay Ralston, president of the Ontario Trial Lawyers Association, says people who are injured and don't have their own optional auto insurance benefits will almost certainly be required to rely on a public purse of some sort for benefits. Seek out information and speak to your broker about your needs. Ralston is concerned that consumers will end up without the coverage they need at the time they need it the most. We're most concerned with a lack of public education on the choices. He adds, if we had our preference, they would not go to opt-in benefits. We would prefer to see them as opt-out so that you had to consciously choose not to take a benefit. The Ministry of Finance's chaplain said in an email that the Financial Services Regulatory Authority of Ontario, which is the FSRA, the Insurance Bureau of Canada, IBC, and the Registered Insurance Brokers Association of Ontario, which is the RIBO, have published materials to help insurers and brokers better understand the upcoming changes and to assist consumers in understanding their coverage choices. The IBC's dean says brokers and agents have gone through consistent training around what these new policies will look like. She says the IBC's information page on auto reforms in Ontario received 90,000 clicks in just 1 month, which tells her people are seeking out information. The IBC has also provided MPP offices with information cards. We are genuinely working to get the message across that we purchase insurance for those what-if scenarios, Dean says. Taking a look at your personal situation and what you would need if involved in a collision is absolutely critical. Every expert intervened for this article emphasized the importance of Ontario drivers having in-depth conversations with their insurance agent or broker about their needs to make sure their costs would be covered in the event of an accident. Steve Ralston, senior counsel and lawyer at Raston Gluckstein Lawyers, says to ask your broker to explain exactly what each optional benefit covers and how much each one will cost you so that you can make an informed choice about whether you want them. People need to risk check their own lives and say, if I get in a car crash and all of a sudden I can't work and I have no coverage, is it going to ruin me or not? Keep in mind that as of July 1st, auto insurance will pay first for medical or rehabilitation benefits, including medication costs, for injuries sustained in an accident before your workplace or private health plan benefits kick in. If you're trying to save money, Robert says to reach out to an insurance broker to see if there are other ways you can save. For example, if you used to have an hour-long commute to work and now you work from home, that change in mileage could lower your premium. The IBC and the Financial Services Regulatory Authority of Ontario, which is the FSRA, have information on their websites that explain what each of the 9 optional benefits encompass. Consumers with questions about the changes can reach out to the IBC through its consumer information line at 1-844-227-5422. Once again, that number is 1-844-227-5422. You can change your optional accident benefits at any time. So if you have a change of heart or if your circumstances change, having a child or starting a new job, you can contact your insurer, agent, or broker to submit your options. Just keep in mind that only the coverage in place at the time of the auto accident will apply to your claim. And Laura Grady is a personal finance reporter for The Star. You can reach her at her email, which is lgardy@THESTAR.ca. Our next article is under Quebec, and it's Quebec politicians denounce white supremacist gathering in Shawinigan. Montreal, Quebec politician leaders are denouncing a white supremacist rally held Saturday in Shawinigan in Quebec's Maurice region. And this article is written by the Canadian Press. Quebec political leaders are denouncing a white supremacist rally held Saturday in Shawinigan in Quebec's Maurice region. Masked individuals displayed a banner reading, "I remember white Quebec," near the city's cenotaph. Quebec Premier Christine Frichette says that racist messages have no place in Quebec society. Parti Québécois, and that's Quebecois, Quebecois, leader Paul St. Pierre Plamondon, and that's Plamondon, linked the gathering to hate groups that use sports to normalize extremism. Liberal leader Charles Milliard, and that's Milliard, also denounced the rally, saying it does not reflect the openness of Quebecers. Quebec provincial police say they became aware of the demonstration after receiving a picture that circulated in the media over the weekend, but did not say whether an investigation has been launched. And this report by the Canadian Press was first published June 1st, 2026. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Toronto Star on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The next article is titled, Advocates Call on Ottawa to Limit Nicotine Use Among Youth, Demand Stricter Measures. Several health organizations are urging the federal government to bring down nicotine use among Canadians to less than 5% of the population by 2045 as vaping among youth rises. And this article is written by Ritika Dubey, and that's Ritika of the Canadian Press. Several health organizations are urging the federal government to bring down nicotine use among Canadians to less than 5% of the population by 2045 as vaping among youth rises. Les Hagan, Executive Director of Action on Smoking and Health, says nicotine use has grown exponentially among Canadians aged 25 and under, which he says is a huge concern. Hagan said several published systemic reviews had shown that vaping creates a nicotine pathway in the brain, making them addicted to the substance, which makes youth more susceptible to starting smoking cigarettes. If that can't be satisfied by nicotine products like vaping products, they will find other ways to satisfy those cravings, including smoking. A Statistics Canada report published last year shows 15% of students in grades 7 to 12 reported vaping in the past 30 years in a 2023-2024 survey. That jumps to 27% of grade 12 students who say they used a vape over a 30-day period. The rate of vaping among 12th graders far outpaces the overall national consumption levels. A 2022 Statistics Canada report found 18.2% of Canadians aged 15 years and older had ever vaped. That is stunningly high, said Rob Cunningham, Senior Policy Analyst at the Canadian Cancer Society. There are several reasons why vaping has been concentrated among youth, Cunningham said. It's less expensive than cigarettes and is available in many flavors in most provinces, an important factor why vaping is so popular among youth. Unlike cigarettes, vapes don't come with graphic pictures and health warnings on their packaging, while social media influencers often promote them, he said. Vapes have a much higher level of social acceptability compared to cigarettes, and there's a certain coolness associated with them, he added. Michael Chaitin, and that's Chaiton, associate professor at the University of Toronto, said while the full impacts of vaping on health aren't known yet, it's still harmful. E-cigarettes on their own are associated with risk, he said, especially when it comes to respiratory and cardiovascular issues. The consensus among many health organizations to reduce nicotine consumption comes from a 2-day roundtable on reducing tobacco and nicotine use in Canada held ahead of World No Tobacco Day on Sunday. That's in addition to the existing national target set in 2016 to reduce the overall tobacco use rate to less than 5% by 2035, which was later formally adopted by Health Canada. Canada is actually making good progress towards reducing tobacco use, Hagan said. We're actually trending towards less than 5% by 2035. Hagan says 5 million fewer Canadians are consuming tobacco today compared to the levels 26 years ago, which he says is extremely good news. However, he demanded stricter measures against vaping products, such as flavor restrictions, more health warnings on packaging, and a ban on online sales. Higher taxes on nicotine products and extending smoking restrictions to vaping can also help deter nicotine consumption, he said. We need better alignment between our highly effective regulations on tobacco with our totally inadequate regulations on vaping products, Hagan said. Health Canada says vaping products can help people quit smoking, and switching completely to vaping is less harmful than continuing to smoke. But it also says that no vaping products have been approved as cessation aids, and vaping is not harmless and not intended for young people. It says children and teens are especially susceptible to the harmful effects of nicotine because brain development continues through adolescence and into early childhood. Cunningham said the goal to curb nicotine consumption among youth is achievable, though difficult. It is a challenge because the rates of youth and young adult vaping and nicotine pouch use are much higher than adults as a whole, he said. It all depends on how quickly and how extensively governments implement measures. This report by the Canadian Press was first published May 31st, 2026. The next article is under GTA, and the title is Toronto Police Seize More Than $3.5 million worth of fake soccer jerseys ahead of World Cup. Police billed the announcement as the largest seizure of counterfeit soccer merchandise in Canadian history. And this article was written by Gabriel Hilty, Hilty, who's a staff reporter. More than 16,000 fake jerseys and merchandise have been seized in what police are calling the largest seizure of counterfeit soccer merchandise in Canadian history, just weeks before the launch of the FIFA World Cup in Toronto and across North America. At a news conference at Toronto Police Headquarters on Monday, Deputy Chief Robert Johnson said counterfeit merchandise with a street value of more than $3.5 million was secured in the investigation. Our officers seized thousands of knockoff sports merchandise, including jerseys and flags, Johnson said. This was a large-scale operation designed to exploit fans and take advantage of their love for sports, he said. Fraudulent merchandise sent to retail stores. Investigators searched a Mississauga warehouse on May 26 following a tip from Lipkus LAPKUS Law LLP, according to a news release. Officers found a large quantity of fraudulent merchandise in the warehouse, including jerseys, hats, flags, and other items. Officers seized more than 16,000 fraudulent jerseys and flags purporting to be name brand, including FIFA, Nike, Adidas, and Puma, as well as 2 counterfeit FIFA World Cup trophies, according to police. The merchandise was then supplied and distributed to retail stores. Folks are walking into retail stores thinking they're buying an authentic piece, said Superintendent David Eklund told reporters. They're paying full price as if it were authentic, but they're getting a fake counterfeit. A 41-year-old from Milton and a 62-year-old from Mississauga have been arrested and face charges including fraud over $5,000, passing off wares or services with intent to deceive or defraud, and selling, offering for sale, or distributing on a commercial scale goods under the Trademarks Act. Given the size of the seizure, we believe the 2 men were running the scam for some time, Eklund said. They operated as a distributor under the name Amana Trading Company, selling to retail stores. The 2026 FIFA World Cup begins on June 11th with an opening ceremony in Mexico City, which hosts the first game between Mexico and South Africa at 3 p.m. The action kicks off the next day in Toronto when the Canadian men's national team faces Bosnia and Herzegovina at Toronto Stadium at 3 p.m. after the opening ceremony concert. And Gabriel Hilty is a staff reporter with the Star. You can reach him at his email, which is GHILTY @THESTAR.ca. This next article is under sports, and the title is De Rosario partners with app to help young soccer players raise money where kids can be seen. Growing up in Scarborough, Canadian soccer star knows a thing or two about parents struggling to get their kids to play sports because of the cost. And this article is written by Kevin McGran, who is a sports reporter. Growing up in Scarborough in a family of Guyanese immigrants, Dwayne De Rosario knows a thing or two about underserved communities and parents struggling to get their kids to play sports due to the cost associated with organized leagues. So the Canadian Sports Hall of Famer has teamed up with Link Sports, a crowdfunding app that has seen some success in Brazil getting money into hands of kids to help them buy the equipment they need to play the sport they love. I see the game developing in terms of the play-to-play model, said De Rosario, among the career leaders in goals for Toronto FC, 4th, and the Canadian men's team, 3rd. This gives an opportunity for kids in underserved communities an opportunity to be seen internationally or to just be seen in general. Who knows where it takes them? Link Sports copies somewhat the LinkedIn model. Players put in a profile, their abilities and achievements. Anyone from scouts to recruiters to fans can follow them, said Link Sports CEO Nissan Mondajem, Mondajem, in announcing the partnership with De Rosario. It's just soccer now, but other sports, including hockey, are in the plans as well. It seeks to address what he sees as a lack of equal access to sports opportunities when costs can be prohibitively high. With the app, fans or supporters can donate money to the young players they want to support. Link Sports, a for-profit organization, takes a 30% cut, but the rest goes directly to the chosen player as a gift card. There's a component for big companies to get on board with sponsorship dollars spread among young athletes. It's called micro sponsorship, said Monda Gem. It uses micropayments from fans to support players. Gift cards are looped payments. They are dedicated. So in Canada, we will use the infrastructure of payments for gift cards for retail dedicated to sports gear. The kid decides if he wants Adidas or Nike. The user can support the young athlete they like, but the platform uses AI to rank players by ability and other metrics. In our experience, fans pick the best players on the roster. For young athletes, there's double motivation. A young player getting financial support, from strangers no less, is more likely to try harder to excel, said Monda Gem. At the same time, the app gives them the chance to be noticed as they climb the rankings based on results. De Rosario was discovered at 14 on the pitches in Scarborough, though he turned down the chance to play at AC Milan, waiting until 17 to turn pro. People always ask me, what's the pathway to get to the next level? There is no pathway, he said. It's a scramble. Everyone has their own journey. So this platform engages youth and gives them a platform to showcase themselves to the world. In Scarborough, who's seen these kids? It's still a high-density immigrant population. Single parents, families that don't have the resources. Link Sports bridges that gap. It makes you feel important. It creates an environment where kids can be seen. Kids can feel heard. Kids can learn and develop their craft. There are so many kids that are good because of whatever. They can't get through the door. And Kevin McGran is a star sports reporter based in Toronto. Our next article is under business, and it's an opinion article under the Money Coach, and it says retiring without a pension. Here's how you can get guaranteed retirement income for life. And this article is written by Laura Grady, who's a personal finance reporter. And Laura Grady is a personal finance reporter for The Star. You can reach her via her email, which is lgrady at symbol THESTAR.ca. Question: I don't have a pension. How can I get a guaranteed income for life once I retire? Answer: if you don't have a defined benefit pension plan through work, you may want to consider purchasing an annuity or get guaranteed income throughout your retirement. An annuity is a financial instrument with ancient roots, said Alexandra McQueen, CFP and Vice President of Learning, Development, and Professional Practice at FP Canada. It is surprisingly underutilized, she said. It's essentially a contract with a life insurance company where, in exchange for a lump sum of money or multiple payments over time, the insurance company will pay you regular guaranteed income for either a fixed period of time or for the rest of your life. If you have an RRSP, you can use the accumulated funds to buy an annuity once the RRSP matures, usually by age 71. Depending on the type of annuity you choose, you may receive income payments at different frequencies, from once a month to once a year. Typically, people who expect to live longer than average buy annuities to supplement their income, McQueen says. Let's say you spend $100,000 on a life annuity at age 65 and you receive $500 per month. By age 82, you would get your $100,000 investment back and then continue to receive $500 per month until you die. There are many kinds of annuities, but two of the most common types are term certain annuities, which provide guaranteed income for a set number of years, and life annuities, which provide guaranteed income for life. In the latter case, payments stop when you die. The cheapest option is an annuity that pays only as long as the annuitant is alive, but you can purchase a guarantee where your spouse or your estate receives payments for a specified period after you die, or you can purchase a survivor benefit that will pay out as long as the survivor is alive. McQueen says, you can also purchase an annuity that pays out as long as either spouse is alive, independent of who dies first. The best time to buy an annuity depends on your financial needs and sources of income. You can get an annuity that starts paying right away, or you can buy a deferred annuity where you pay for the annuity ahead of time and to start receiving payments later. You can also purchase an advanced life deferred annuity, which is an ALDA, designed to start payments by age 85. The longer you can delay the money from arriving, the cheaper the initial cost, McQueen explains. This is because delaying the payout gives the insurance company more time to invest and grow your initial deposit. Plus, you'll be older when the payments begin, which means the insurer expects to make fewer total payments over your remaining lifespan. McQueen points out there are many different providers or variables that can influence what the annuity pays and under what circumstance it pays, and those factors will impact the cost. How much you receive from an annuity depends upon multiple factors, including your gender and age, the amount of money you invest, and the type of annuity. The amount also depends on prevailing interest rates, McQueen says. In a high interest rate environment, you'll get more. Before you buy an annuity, you need to determine if you want the annuity to continue to be paid to a beneficiary or your estate after you die. You also need to decide if you want regular income payments or payments that will increase or decrease regularly. You should also consider rising costs over time. If you buy an annuity that pays $1,000 a month today and you think you might live another 20 or 30 years, McQueen says it's important to buy inflation protection so that the amount being paid out increases over time. If you purchase an annuity inside your RRSP, the payments will be fully taxable, just like RRSP withdrawals. If you purchase an annuity with non registered funds, McQueen says only the interest portion of the payment is taxable. There are many decisions that you need to make when it comes to choosing an annuity, McQueen says. There are pros and cons with each type. An insurance licensed individual who is familiar with the annuities market can guide you through what the right choices are. And Money Coach is a bi weekly feature that helps Canadians find helpful solutions to personal finance challenges. Our next article is under Food and Drink, and the title is The Etobicoke Deli Feeds the Balkan Community. Now it's turning Bosnia versus Canada into a World Cup block party. 30 years after arriving as refugees, the family behind Marovic, and that's Marakovic, it's Mrakovic, Fine Foods, is racing for bittersweet World Cup milestone. And this article is written by Karen Liu, Liu, who is a food reporter. It has been 12 years since Bosnia and Herzegovina's national football team last played in the FIFA World Cup, and its opening match just happens to be against Canada on June 12th. While much of the attention leading up to the kickoff will focus on Toronto Stadium, BMO Field, and one Etobicoke butcher shop is hoping to bring the celebration closer to home. We're trying to get the players to come here, said Amir Marovic, Mrakovic, 44, who along with his brother Adis, 45, runs Marovic Fine Foods, a Balkan butcher shop and grocer their parents founded more than 2 decades ago. They're supposed to be in training at nearby Centennial Park. It will be a dream if they come here for some cevapi, Cevapi. For the brothers, the World Cup is more than a sporting event. It's a chance to celebrate both Bosnian heritage and Canadian identity with the neighborhood that helped build their family business. The store's parking lot at 44 Wellsworth Drive will be turned into a mini block party with a 26-foot screen showing the match, face painting, popcorn music, and of course, lots of Balkan food. We're from Bosnia, but we're Canadians too, said Adis. On whether he's hoping for a Canadian or Bosnian victory, it will be a happy and sad game. Despite being tucked deep inside a residential neighborhood in Etobicoke, bordered by Highway 427 and Highway 401, Marovic has become a destination through word of mouth alone. The shop draws Balkan families searching for familiar flavors, construction workers lining up for hearty lunches, and younger residents discovering the region's cuisine for the first time. We're almost a cultural host because we want to show our culture by not just inviting Bosnians but everyone, says Adis. It's a full circle. We left Bosnia. Now the football team is coming, and now we're bringing everyone together with food. The star here is the cevapi, the national dish of small, grilled, caseless beef sausages stuffed in a warm flatbread called lapina, served with sides of chopped raw onions, house-made kajmak, which is Kajmak, a thick and tangy clotted cream, and avar, Ajvar, a sweet roasted red pepper condiment common in Balkan cuisine. There is also sak, tender veal, potatoes, and carrots cooked for 4 hours in a large cast iron skillet. The burkels, Bureks, flaky stuffed phyllo served in long tubes or coils, come stuffed with combinations of beef, potato, cheese, and spinach. Adis grabs a bottle of thick, drinkable yogurt from the fridge to pair with this potato burek. Despite the meat-heavy menu, There are a few meatless options, including an apple-stuffed burkek for dessert. This Etobicoke institution traces back to Sarajevo, Sarajevo, where the brother's father, Meho Marovic, worked as a butcher before the Bosnian War broke out in 1992. Meho, and that's Meho, his wife Ferida, and their 2 children fled to Canada, eventually arriving in Quebec City in November 1994 alongside other Bosnian refugees. No one in the family spoke English or French. To survive, Meho did what he did best back home. He sold meat. Specifically, he sold meat brined with salt, garlic, and pepper for 2 weeks, then hung, smoked, and dried for 30 to 40 days, as well as traditional smoked beef sausages called sujuk, S-U-J-U-K. My father didn't see a lot of opportunities in Quebec City, so he bought a Topaz for $800, made 100 kilograms of smoked meat in some lady's backyard, brought a map, and said he was going to Toronto, said Amar. A mechanic told his father there was no way his clunker would reach Toronto, but nonetheless gave him $100 for good luck. He got off Islington and went north to a coffee time where there was a large Croatian and Bosnian community. He did a few more trips and decided to move there after a couple months with us, Amir said. Can you imagine doing that now? It shows how strong he was mentally. He was under a lot of pressure. As New Torontonians, Meho worked as a butcher for St. Helens Meat Packers while still making smoked meat on the side. In 2003, at 49 years old, Meho took over an old fish and chip shop and turned it into the Moravik Fine Foods, turning his side job into a full-time career. By then, Etobicoke already had a growing Balkan community. Institutions such as the Bosnian Islamic Center was established in 1973, gave residents a community base. Many Bosnians are Bosniaks or Bosnian Muslims, and all of Moravik's meat products are halal, and that's Halal. Dozens of nearby businesses spawned to cater to the community. Now the area counts restaurants such as Sarajevo, and that's Sarajevo Grill, and Meat, Bohemi, which is Bonimi, specializing in Serbian cuisine, known as Barak, and Balkan Grill, alongside food shops like Old Mill Pastry and Deli, Starry Grand, and Balkan Express. Moravik has since expanded St. Etobicoke with a second store in Oakville along a 10,000 square foot production kitchen to keep up with the wholesale demand for its cevapi and kebabs sold at mainstream supermarkets like Loblaws and Costco. Despite the growth, the brothers say their focus remains local, especially as younger families continue moving into the neighboring area. The FIFA World Cup might be a global event, but at Moravik, they are focusing on the neighborhood. And Karen Liu is a Toronto-based food reporter for The Star. You can reach him at his email, which is KARONLIU@symbol THESTAR.ca. And our last article today is under the GTA, and the title is New York Mayor Secured $50 World Cup Tickets for Residents. Why didn't Toronto do the same? And this article is written by Sadine Mohsen, Mohsen, who's a staff reporter. How much would you pay for a seat at one of the FIFA World Cup matches? As Torontonians face eyebrow-raising ticket prices for the upcoming soccer matches, New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani has been able to secure $50 tickets for 1,000 lucky residents of his city. Why were such concessions not granted to the other metropolitan host cities, including Toronto? For Canada's June 12th World Cup opener at Toronto Stadium, hundreds of tickets are available on online reselling sites. In one instance, a pair of tickets valued at $3,000 was listed for $64,462 on StubHub. The New York effort, announced last week, was a result of months-long negotiations with FIFA, which was initially reluctant to set a precedent, The Athletic reported. The agreement also provides free round-trip bus transportation to the games held at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. It was a rare affordability win. FIFA's ticket sale process and pricing model has frustrated fans worldwide and prompted investigations by the attorneys general in New York and New Jersey. The $50 New York tickets will be distributed by ballot as part of the mayor's promise to grant locals easier access to the tournament. New Yorkers had to enter a lottery system which checks for proof of residency and aimed to prevent tickets from being resold or scalped. FIFA comes into your town and sets whole new rules, said Maddie, and I'm just going to spell it, Siemiatycki, Semiatycki, professor of geography and planning at the University of Toronto. With the cost of living crisis, Mandami's ticket concessions signaled that he is constantly fighting for the betterment of his residents, which is why Semiatycki said he's been so successful amongst his constituents. He also praised Mandami's snow shoveling program, where residents could get paid $30 an hour to clear snow. It was remarkable that Mandami even knew to ask for this, said Semiatycki. Meanwhile, Torontonians have been completely priced out of the games. People would be thrilled. Semiatycki says he believes there would have been a high demand for discounted tickets from Toronto soccer fans and various cultural communities. People would be thrilled to have access to this at a price they could afford. At an unrelated press conference, Mayor Olivia Chow praised the New York idea and added that Toronto would have snapped up the tickets had FIFA offered that deal to the city. If the FIFA World Cup is willing to give us a block of tickets that are a lot lower price, we will take it anytime, she said. They didn't make that offer to us. Instead, Chow cited the city's FIFA Fan Festival, which will be held at the Fort York National Historic Site in the Bentway, as a free opportunity for residents and visitors to participate in the World Cup celebrations. The festival will offer free general admission to thousands of residents and visitors, with 500 tickets set aside each day for community organizations, said Sharon Bolenbach, Executive Director of FIFA World Cup 2026 Toronto Secretariat, the official department managing the logistics for the tournament. The city briefly considered a $10 fee admission to the fan festival back in April before backtracking. It would have been very powerful. Providing host cities with heavily discounted tickets is not a new practice, said Tijnia Redden, Redden, another assistant professor of geography and planning at the University of Toronto. But these negotiations have to begin months in advance, and political leaders need to know how to ask for them. It would have been very powerful to have a concentrated effort at all levels of government to negotiate some sort of ticket concessions for residents. Among a similar theme of affordability, Redden pointed to a series of small business programs set by Mandami recently, including one that focused on providing $26 meals at participating restaurants as an affordable food option. As for the city's political figures, Wren said she felt there was a lack of consideration as to how Torontonians would benefit from the World Cup descending onto their city, given the disruptions expected to their daily lives. If an initiative like this is such a low-hanging fruit, why didn't Toronto do it? It will cost the city $380 million to host the 6 matches at Toronto Stadium, which includes funding from the federal and provincial governments. There have to be some hard conversations about what's in it for these cities to actually host. And Sadine Moshen is a staff reporter with the Toronto Star, and you can reach her at her email, which is SAMOHSEN @ THESTAR.ca. And you have been listening to a reading of articles and features from the June 1st, 2026 issue of the Toronto Star. Your reader has been Judy, that's me, and it has been such an honor and pleasure to read to you. I hope you have a most wonderful day and take care of your amazing selves. Thank you so much.